Hello and welcome to Lecture 1 on Social Psychology. So, we just finished talking about personality. We've spent a lot of time talking about the individual, what makes us different from each other. Now we're going to look at social psychology, and this has a lot to do with how we operate as groups. So, for this lecture, we're going to look and describe the advantages and disadvantages of groups. We're going to look at in-group and out-group formation. We're going to look at the effects of group membership on personal identity and on brain activity. We're going to look at social facilitation, de-individuation, group polarization, groupthink, and social loafing. We're going to differentiate between conformity, compliance, and obedience. In this lecture, there's going to be a lot of terminology, and I'm going to kind of just talk through the terminology, and then we'll start looking at some actual research studies to highlight these phenomena. So over the course of human evolution, group membership has been life or death, and being kicked out of a group had dire consequences. So we developed evolutionarily to be good group members. Humans are especially social. One of the cruelest things you can do, and it's actually a form of torture, is to put someone in solitary confinement. We don't last long in solitary confinement because we are meant to be with people. Now, group membership brings challenges. And one of those challenges is figuring out how to be a good group member. Groups don't advertise their rules. This is something you have to just be very receptive to. And becoming part of a new group is very difficult because the rules change with each group. So, being a good group member requires the capacity to understand complex and subtle social cues. That's going to include facial expressions, the ability to interpret vocal tone, the ability to interpret body language, but also just to be able to read the temperature of the room when you walk into a room with a group of people. You know, you walk in and sometimes you feel like, okay, everyone's having a good time. And other times you walk in and you're like, this is a really, really tense meeting right now. We need to be able to recognize when our actions might be offensive to others. Causing offense is a huge problem within groups. And we need to control our desires to engage in behaviors that might violate group norms. That can be very difficult because often we don't know what the group norms are until we've been a member of that group for some time. Now, there's what's called the social brain hypothesis. And according to the social brain hypothesis, the size of a primate species' standard social group is related to the volume of that species' neocortex. So, in primate species, social group size correlates with the size of the neocortex, just the brain overall. I find this especially fascinating. What this means is that the more social you have to be as a member of your species, the more brain activity, the more brain ability you need to have the cognitive resources to maintain group living. Now, we're great apes as humans. And great apes lie on a separate line from monkeys, and this is because we just need more cognitive resources to support group living. And we are the pinnacle of the great apes in terms of neocortex and average group size. So Here's your neocortex right here. It's all that pink wrinkly stuff. So now I would like you to go to Moodle, and in the folder titled Chapter 12, Social Psychology Lecture Videos, please watch the video, Why Do Humans Have Such Big Brains? Welcome back. I think that is a very helpful video, and it really goes into some great detail about the demands of social living. That we need big brains because being a social creature requires a lot of cognitive ability. Now, banding together in a group provides numerous advantages, so security from predators, assistance in hunting and gathering food. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to see either the documentary or read the book titled Guns, Germs, and Steel. If you do, it's really interesting because it does look at how going from being nomadic to settling into villages allowed us to develop larger groups, and how that really allowed us to take over the world. Now, over the course of human evolution, it was critical for groups to identify other groups as either friends or foes. So friends would be suppliers, and foes would be competitors for those supplies. Once a categorization was made, it was equally critical to react accordingly, either by working together or exhibiting aggression. This is why we need so much neocortex. We are trying, so we find our place within an in-group fairly easily. But to be able to identify strangers as are they one of us or one of them takes a lot of cognitive processing. Language is a big part of socialization as well. Humans rely on language extensively for working in groups. We need a lot of brain to maintain the types of groups that we have. Now, humans automatically and pervasively form groups. If you put a group of toddlers in a room, they will form groups. It is innate. Humans need people. Now, two conditions appear to be critical for group formation. First is reciprocity, and the second is transitivity. So with reciprocity, this is the if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So if person A helps or harms person B, then person B will help or harm person A. That's pretty basic. Now, transitivity means that people generally share their friends' opinions of other people. This is an interesting one to me. We have no problem suppressing our own our need for gathering our own information. If someone in our group says that this person is X, Y, and Z, we're likely to believe them. That's part of group membership. We have to, in many ways, we have to trust the opinions of the group. So if person A and person B are friends, then if person A likes person C, dislikes person D, then person D will also like person C and dislike person D. Just think back to middle school. That's transitivity right there. Now there's what's called the outgroup homogeneity effect. The tendency to view outgroup members as less varied than in-group members. So, when we look at our groups, we see each person as an individual. And we're able to see that person's individuality and value that. I mean, they still need to follow group norms, but we recognize their individuality and don't really struggle much with that. But when we see out-group members, we tend to be very dismissive of their individuality because they're all one of them. So, example, U of O students may think OSU students are alike, but when U of O students think about OSU students, they can't help but notice a wide diversity of student types. It's a challenge for us. We have to make a conscious effort to think about those outside of our group as individual people. You just think about your own political affiliation. I have to work very, very, very hard, especially with what's going on right now, to remember that just because someone isn't a member of my political group, I can't paint them with a wide brush. That we're so polarized right now. I think it's very easy to paint others with a very wide brush, and I think that leads to some very dangerous situations politically, and politics is clashing in the public forum. Lots of protests, and things are getting violent because of this. Then we have social identity theory, and this is the idea that in-groups consist of individuals who perceive themselves to be members of the same social category and experience pride through their group membership. We identify with our groups. We're typically very proud of our membership with a group. Now, there's what's called in-group favoritism, and this is the tendency for people to evaluate favorably and privilege members of the in-group more than members of the out-group. We've all had that experience where we have felt passed over, or that that someone in a group, that we were overlooked even when we had maybe more to offer than member of the in-group. Let me use an example. That would make more sense. If you're ever interviewing for jobs, I think we all feel like, well, if those who apply inside the company are more likely to get the job. I know at LCC we have to work very, very, very hard when hiring new full-time faculty to be very cautious about not giving preferential treatment to people that have been teaching at the college for some time already, usually as part-timers. We try to fight in-group favoritism intensely, and it is hard because we do evaluate people of our own groups more favorably, and we extend more privileges to members of our group than we would to those who are not part of our group. Oh, sorry. Got out of control here. Where the hell am I? There I am. Okay, so we're going to end on this slide, and we will continue in lecture 2. Thank you.